Hi, my name is Jade. Thank you so much for joining me again. Today I'm going to talk you through all the bags that I have sold from my collection and why. I would say I started my collection back in 2015. I bought myself a Fendi Toujours bag, and it was at the time when Fendi was, everywhere. The peekaboo in particular was very, very popular. I went with the Toujours in a beautiful, beautiful turquoise color and in the smaller size. So I think it was about like this big. It had a top handle and a crossbody strap, and I loved it. It was kind of almost like an Epsom leather or something like that. It was a pebbled leather. I then bought myself a Prada bucket bag, and it was on sale in Selfridges for I think £600. And I remember at the time thinking like, oh my God, like when is a Prada bag ever £600? And it was definitely a stretch for me, but I bought it for myself as a bit of a Christmas present. So I had these two bags in 2015 or 2016 and I loved them. Maybe a year after I bought them, decided to sell them both. And I can't quite remember, I think it was I needed the money. I was moving back to Australia from the UK. I don't think I was reaching for them. I used to go through this thing where I'd buy these bags and then I'd almost get embarrassed that I had them, or, that people would think it was maybe just a little bit too frivolous. I got in my head a little bit about it. So I sold them, much to my best friend's annoyance, I think, because she was a little bit like, why did you buy them and then sell them? Fast forward to 2019, that was when I started to A, feel like I could afford them, and B, my interest was renewed in them. If you watch my full bag collection, I do still have a lot of bags, definitely, more than maybe even a person needs, or not enough, depending on which way you look at it. But it was in the last 5 years where I definitely made some purchasing mistakes that, given my time again, I probably wouldn't have bought some of these bags. I definitely went Chanel crazy. Chanel for me has been this unattainable dream brand. I always wanted a classic flap, always. And I particularly always wanted the Chanel black caviar classic flap with gold hardware. When I used to daydream about unattainable bags I'd want to buy, it was always that. So I've had the opportunity to buy a classic flap, and I couldn't yet afford the caviar classic flap. But at the time, even the resale market was quite expensive. I think it was like 8,000 or 9,000, and I was looking at a vintage black lambskin classic flap, which was at the time I think like 6,000. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to splurge. Really, I should have just waited, but I bought this black lambskin classic flap with gold hardware, and it was beautiful. The leather is stunning. If anyone ever tells you that a vintage Chanel lambskin classic flap feels buttery, they aren't lying. It is so soft. And there's the different styles, you can get one with flatter quilting or puffier quilting. I went for a flatter one and I really, really liked it. It just wasn't the caviar. And so then I tried to fill my caviar need with this chevron medium classic flap in a turquoise caviar with light gold hardware. It was stunning, and I bought it through a reseller in Singapore. The caviar itself was shiny and the graining was really, really small, and that was a hard one to sell. And again, I sold it because what I really wanted was the black caviar, so I really should have just held out and waited. I also bought a third vintage lambskin classic flap in medium, and this one was in a dark beige, which I thought, based on the pictures that I'd seen through this reseller, was more of a caramel, but when it arrived, it was definitely more of a beige, and I just didn't really want a beige. I had my heart set on a caramel classic flap. Also bought from store a black and white raffia Chanel seasonal flap bag, so it only has the one flap. I remember seeing it online and absolutely falling in love with it, and basically calling Chanel once a week for about 4 or 5 weeks, asking if it had come into store in Australia, if so, which store, is there an essay that they could put me in touch with. Unfortunately, they couldn't, so I had to keep going to each store. And where I am, there's about 3 stores. I actually bought the mini square version in a white and black, so majority white. And I realized very quickly I shouldn't have bought it. It wasn't the right one. So thankfully, I popped into one of the stores and was like, I think I'm gonna have to exchange this for a credit note. So I did. And then again, was still stalking this black one, found it, bought it, had to pay a small difference. And the price of the raffia bags at Chanel has skyrocketed as well. So I do feel lucky, but I decided to sell it because I now have the black Prada raffia, and I reached for that way more than I did the Chanel. And I wanted to do a maybe 2 out, 1 in when I got this bag, because again, I'm trying to be sensible with my collection. So I sold all those bags, actually probably last year or the end of 2023. It was a little bit hard, but it was ultimately for the right choices, because I then used that money to purchase my black caviar classic flap, and I'm really happy, and I probably don't want any other bags at this stage. If I was to ever buy another Chanel bag, it would be a caramel classic flap in that vintage lambskin with the 24 karat gold hardware in small or medium. I think I'm not fussy on that one, but if there was one that came up in my budget and in relatively good quality, I would definitely purchase it. Moving into Hermes, I bought a Kelly 35 in cognac chev leather gold hardware from a reseller in the UK who I did a bit of research on and was trusted. However, I'm not going to mention his name because he told me the bag was a Kelly 32 in Togo leather in gold with gold hardware. And the only reason I found out that it wasn't any of those things other than the gold hardware is because I had it authenticated with a trusted authenticator, and it was completely different. And you know what, it is on me because I did contact him and I was like, hey, this is a 35, not a 32. It's chev leather, not Togo. It's also cognac, not gold. What's going on here? And he was like, oh, but you got such a good deal on it. Like, it's still a beautiful bag, etc., etc. And I kind of just rolled with it, and I probably should have fought for myself a little bit more and been like, no, that's not what I bought. You basically sold me a completely different bag. Anyway, I took it into Hermes and I had it refurbed, and that's actually how I started my Hermes journey. So, you know, swings and roundabouts. But I did sell that bag to someone who was looking for those exact specs, and I'm really glad that I sold it to her. She loves it and uses it all the time, and I just wasn't reaching for it as much because it didn't quite fit my work laptop, so I couldn't use it on every day, but it was kind of also too big to use for what I would take out every day when I was not at work. So live and learn. And then finally, the other bag that I have for sale is an Hermes Picotin 18 in cassis with gold hardware. It's a beautiful bag, but I didn't really want to have multiple Picotins in the collection that I have at the moment. So I just have this one now, and I'm really happy with that. And the cassis Picotin 18 is being sold. But it was beautiful and the color is stunning. But that was a really quick video. That's all the bags that I have loved before, and I'm sure there are going to be more on my wish list, so who knows, maybe some will have to leave my current collection, which you can see in my full 2024 bag collection video. Otherwise, if you have any questions, comments, if you think I made any mistakes for any of the bags that I sold, please put them in the comments below. I love hearing from you. Otherwise, I look forward to you joining me again. I hope you have a lovely day.